Recorded by the...
All right. I didn't realize I was going to be recorded as well. So I remember
Zoom meeting.
My poetry workshop, my first poetry workshop that I ever attended. I was 15 at UCT. Everyone was very serious. I was in bliss and also way out of my depth. And there was Geoff, and Geoff was funny and irreverent. And I remember, Geoff, you read a poem based on a Shakespearean sonnet. It was a riff on a Shakespearean sonnet. It was the height of the state of emergency, and it started, let me not to the making of true laws admit impediments. And it was very funny and very serious at the same time. And it's the kind of voice that Geoff has. He's a poet of many voices, and often he can take something that you think you know, and just by changing a few words, he can show it to you in a new light. And so I brought a poem to introduce you, and it's a poem that's a riff on Matthew Arnold's famous Dover Beach, which of course very serious. It has a high seriousness to it, but this is a commentary on it by Anthony Hecht, and it's called the Dover Bitch. He subtitles it Criticism of Life. So there stood Matthew Arnold and this girl, with the cliffs of England crumbling away behind them. And he said to her, "Try to be true to me, and I'll do the same for you, for things are bad all over, etc., etc." Well now, I knew this girl. It's true she had read Sophocles in a fairly good translation and caught that bitter allusion to the sea, but all the time he was talking, she had in mind the notion of what his whiskers would feel like on the back of her neck. She told me later on that after a while, she got to looking out at the lights across the channel and really felt sad, thinking of all the wine and enormous beds and blandishments in French and the perfumes. And then she got really angry to have been brought all the way down from London and then be addressed as a sort of mournful cosmic last resort is really tough on a girl. And she was pretty. Anyway, she watched him pace the room and finger his watch chain and seemed to sweat a bit. And then she said one or two unprintable things. But you mustn't judge her by that. What I mean to say is she's really all right. I still see her once in a while, and she always treats me right. We have a drink and I give her a good time, and perhaps it's a year before I see her again, but there she is, running to fat, but dependable as they come. And sometimes I bring her a bottle of Nuit d'Amour. So that's Anthony Hecht. And now it's a great pleasure to hand over to Geoff. I'm going to mute myself and be quiet and let you read. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Geoff.
Yeah.
I'd entirely forgotten about that modified sonnet that you referred to. Oh. I'd like to start this evening by reading a poem which appeared in a different version quite some time ago, but I realized that it really should have been written not as a straight narrative, which it was cast in that way at the time, but that this was really a poem for Fanny Brawne, Keats's lover. And so it's been changed. I think it's been straightened up a bit. It's called Cut Short, and it's a narrative of Fanny's love affair with John Keats, which ended with his death at the age of 26. There is as yet no whir of sewing machine. You are the seamstress with a hand-sewn seam. You sit alone in a wide window seat to prick the muslin gathered in your lap. Remarkable for double pleats, ruched ruffs and scalloping, you are your mother's firstborn, loyal to your siblings, strong and dear. The family tenant charms you by degrees. Reclining in a comfortable settee, he works upon his verses half the day. He too's a kind of tailor, as he clothes imagination in well-suited words. His glinting mind employs the finest silks, embroidering images of fine stitched sheen. Unlike young officers frogged to the throat, whom you have partnered in the quaint quadrilles, he has no income, is in fact in debt. His many travels in the realms of gold have coined no sovereigns fit to fill a purse. Journeys on coach tops have been cramped and cold. He's nursed his TB-ridden brother, Tom. Your room and his are separate yet close, so beds are pushed to one adjoining wall. Like Thisbe with her Pyramus, you feel the dour denial of the wood and loam. Although you tap and whisper, all is chaste. That autumn long, you blow him kisses through the misty and the mellow, fruitful air. He must sail southward or he'll surely die. He cannot last the winter with those lungs. This is the verdict of his loyal friends. A ship is chosen and the passage paid. For you, the knowledge that he must depart rolls up a bolt of satin briefly glimpsed. How will you ever fashion passion's gown? For weeks there is no letter sent from Rome. Sometimes at night you dream he is a ghoul with hand held out towards you, stiffly stark, so that you shiver guilty in your sheet. There should be love, more happy, happy love, while he pursues you in a carefree grove. A knell to you, the news that he is gone. While walking mantled in your shawl of grief, your eyes attracted to an applique that sparkles on the velvet robe of night. Ah, John, you murmur, I am that bright star you worked into the fabric of your poem. Your noble fancy is but partly true. His heaven was your million pleasured breast. My second poem is about another Victorian poet, very much older. He was still at it in his 80s, Thomas Hardy. And this poem is called Visiting Max Gate. Now, Max Gate was designed by the author and built on a plot near Dorchester. His birthplace at Higher Bockhampton lay within walking distance. Max Gate was shared with his first wife, Emma Gifford, and later with Florence Dugdale. After Emma's death, Hardy married Florence. Visiting Max Gate. The exterior we see is a construct from your architect's brain. 4 square, with elaborations of tower and pitched roof more ambitious than your birthplace. You remembered how smoke had risen from your childhood's chimney pots in tentative curlicues, yet you had said goodbye to the thatch and cob of your startings long ago. Inside, the panels and wainscot are high Victorian, planted with dark corners and rife with corridors that suggest some passionate novel. Two lady ghosts slip through the doorways. First, your dearest Emma, who withdrew to an attic to write her introspective verses and to watch the stock doves in the trees. Lodged under the eaves, much like the roof walker of Thornfield Hall, but without the loony laughing in the small hours or the pyromania, she descended the staircase only by night. It baffled this genteel person to the point of migraine that you, her laboring class man, had risen to entertain princes and panjandrums among the pendant fuchsias. Second, fair Florence, very much younger, who exulted in her power of making demands. Yards of curtaining, a really good bed, and a washstand with water on tap were provided reluctantly by you, the aging lover. For the reception rooms, you insisted upon unusually large casements. At the outset, panes of your parents' cottage window had been handkerchief-sized, but bursting with radiance to an unseasoned boy. In your maturity, it seems, like Hamlet's uncle, you kept on demanding, "Give me some light." In a lighted cubicle, we are shown a state-of-the-art WC. Once upon a time, sitting over the long drop in a shed at the foot of his native hill, you had dared to dream of literary projects, uncertain and far away. Later, as an old man perched on this Persian throne beneath the pediment of a cast iron cistern, did you pause to ponder what further poems might be produced by the peristalsis of imagination? Finally, we inspect a shuttered room, scene for the deathbed, where nooks and crannies hint at haunting. With a fatal seizure came your surprised ejaculation. "What's this then?" No question can say finis. It invites responses, at the best constructive, or at the very worst, a blank. Your end was just beginning. To three friends of mine. The first is Dr. Severin's package. This is Dr. Severin's package in COVID times. Package is a life lover, and this is his fantasy. As a novice octogenarian, I'm on chronic medication and a menu of supplements. Actuaries give me a smidgen of expectation, though in these pandemical days, comorbidities have reduced the figure. But hot from reading Genesis, I have a new perspective. My benchmark is Methuselah, who had a big baguette at 187 and soldiered on for 700 years and more. Man of the javelin, they said, and hero of the stiffy throw. This longest lived of patriarchs was 969, the day he passed away. If I am careful, in my mask, I may have 888 years to go. Another friend who is wedded to the idea of the rhyming couplet. This is his attack upon a horn bearer. He swings out in a panic from the mud. His frantic vision is Sophia's view. He smells their rankness, though he sees them skew. 3 poachers have approached the waterhole, his low-held armored head their single goal. Its twin erections waiting to be sold are more than worth their weight in pure gold. The herbivore advances in a rush, a plated missile from the underbrush. One of the spoilers hits him with a shot, the second grabs the hunting knife where hair and epidermis intermesh. The third has brought his snarling chainsaw in to mutilate the compact keratin. 2 tons of flesh lie prone upon the plain. A living mass of suffering jaw are turned to shreds of flesh and streaming gore. The butchers give no coup de grace that day, but stuff their gunny bags and make away. Ground into dust, their loot will raise the hopes of some old Oriental when he gropes a trafficked virgin on his penthouse bed, incontinent to take her maidenhead. Unnumbered greybeards have the same desire by any means to stoke a fading fire. Laboratories reveal the irony. This felt Viagra has no potency to raise libido in the aged it fails. They may as well prescribe their fingernails. The costly substance grants no edge or pith. It's just a waste of money and a myth. Too soon we shall be told, a beast that's been upon the planet since the Pleistocene has by a fatal chance with man been linked to serve his fantasies and go extinct.
It looks like a gremlin has struck.
Yes, it looks like Geoff, for some reason, went out of the room. We'll try to get him back on in a moment.
There were several short pauses while Geoff was speaking, so it did seem like there's a bit of an unstable connection.
Yes, Keith, it might be load shedding, but I'm not sure. We're just trying to contact him and see if we can get him back on or if it's load shedding.
I can read a poem of his from stanzas, if you like.
Please, Douglas.
Novel coronavirus. Incubations out of William Blake's Songs of Experience. 1. After the Tiger. That's Blake's The Tiger. Virus, virus out of sight. In the pulmonary night, what enigmatic entity could fashion your malignity? Is what torrid genome pool, sorry, in what torrid genome pool did your distinctive code unspool? What the eyes, what fingers thin could screw your spiky senses in? From what bat or pangolin did your career with us begin? How is it you can ride the breeze upon the impulse of a sneeze? Why are our lungs left dead alive, in need of icy to survive? Are we not food on whom you prey? Black, brown, yellow, pinko, grey. In the Big Bang from afar, produced black hole and neutron star, did he enjoy what he could do? Did he who saw Christ crowned crown you? Virus, virus, out of sight, in the pulmonary night, what enigmatic entity dared fashion your malignity? 2. After the sick rose. O earthling, you are sick. The invisible germ flying in the night of a cytokine storm has found out the cells that sustain your life's joy, and his dark secret nodes press in to destroy. I mean, Geoff's a very funny poet, really, let's face it. He's got a grand sense of humor. Now, let's see if I've got any more. I don't have all of them. I don't have all the stanzas down here. So I think that's it. There might be one other. Hang on a second.
This is when you wish you had more poems by heart.
Geoff's poems.
Yes.
I know there's one more, if I can just get it up,
Yes.
so to speak. Right. It's on there. There. Okay. Page 20. Hold on, caller. It's quite a long poem called by Geoff. And it's called, I hope everyone can hear me fine.
We can hear you fine, Douglas.
Yeah, okay. It's a poem by Geoffrey called Found in Translation. Lines for Walt Whitman, reworked from his poem, The Wound Dresser, in which he anticipates what Wilfred Owen later described as the pity of war. I think Geoff read this in the open mic session at some point, maybe, or perhaps I'm imagining it. Anyway, let me read this for you then. I'll just make it slightly larger since my eyes are not that brilliant. Found in Translation by Geoff Haresnape. An old man bending, you come among new faces, young men and women that love you. Excuse me. Come tell us, truth-telling poet, they say. Be witness again, paint the mightiest armies of earth, of those armies so rapid, so wondrous, what saw you to tell us? What stays with you, latest and deepest? Of curious panics, of hard-fought engagements, of sieges tremendous, what deepest remains? The young woman and the men you love, when they ask of the strangest and most sudden of your days, in silence, in dreams, projections, you enter the walls of a captured fort. With hinged knees returning, You enter the doors, hearing the bandages. Oh, blimey. Sorry, I lost the page. I'm not used to reading from. With hinged knees returning, you enter the doors, bearing the bandages, water and sponge. Straight and swift to your wounded you go, where they lie after a battle brought in, while their priceless blood reddens the grass, the ground. Or under the roof of a hospital tent you return to the long rows of cots up and down each side. To each and all, one after another, you draw near, not one do you miss. An attendant follows, holding a tray. He carries a refuse pail, soon to be filled with clotted rags and blood, emptied and filled again. Onward you go. You stop, with hinged knees and steady hand to dress wounds. You are firm with each. The pangs are sharp, yet unavoidable. One turns to you, his appealing eyes, poor boy, you never knew him, yet you think you could not refuse this moment to die for him, if that would save his life. On you go, on you go. The crushed head you dress, hoping the poor crazed hand does not tear the bandage away. You examine the neck of the cavalryman, with the bullet through and through. Hard the breathing rattles, quite glazed already the eyes, yet life struggles hard. Come, come, sweet death, you pray. Be persuaded, oh, merciful death, in mercy, come quickly. From the stump of the arm, the hand amputated, you undo the clotted lint, remove the slough, wash off the matter and blood. Back on his pillow, the soldier bends his curved neck and side-falling head. His eyes are closed, his face is pale. He dares not look on the bloody stump and has not yet looked on it. Dress a wound in the side, deep, deep. But a day or two more and see the frame all wasted and sinking, and the yellow-blue countenance see. You dress the perforated shoulder, the foot with the bullet wound, cleanse the one with annoying and putrid gangrene, so sickening, so offensive, while the attendant stands beside you, holding the tray and pail. You are faithful, you do not give out. The fractured thigh, the knee, the wound in the abdomen, these and more you dress with impassive hand. Yet deep in your breast, a fire, a burning flame. Thus, in silence, in dreams, projections, returning, resuming, you thread your way through the hospitals. The hurt and the wounded you pacify with a soothing hand. You sit by the restless all the dark night. Some are so young, some suffer so much. You recall the experience so sweet and sad. Many a soldier's loving arms about your neck have crossed and rested.
Thank you so much, Douglas. I'm pretty sure we've tried contacting Geoff. I'm pretty sure it's load shedding because we can't even get a hold of him. So going forward, what we have decided on is if people have poems by Geoff and would like to read them, we can go that route, or we could jump onto the open mic session. So I'll leave that. Jim, you have a poem by Geoff that you'd like to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. This is from Newborn Images, one of Geoff's earliest collections. And I read this poem recently with the Fisher Poetry Reading Group in the context of Blake, already mentioned, and Wordsworth. So here's an early poem compared to the poems which we've heard and Geoff's most recent work. What a shame he's been cut off. But this takes him back, or takes us back to his roots. Childhood. From a tree-capped hill, I once looked out on mountains salamaning to the sea, protected from the great sky's rush that threatened me. The brown pine needle floor was smooth. Carved cones were saints who slept in hierarchies where branches tapped. A bumblebee hung in a haze of wings and stirred a daydream in the mind. He glistened in a shaft of sun, safe from the wind. This cool marquee enveloped me with floating roof and walls of green. Grooved trunks were its creaking poles. There was no pain in this secret, still tree tabernacle. I heard, hushed to a sigh, the breaker's distant urgency. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was beautiful. Douglas, please go ahead.
One of the Avbob poems that Geoff sent in, and he's created this character called Tom Southcross, who seems to be at all of the major biblical events somehow, or witnessing thereof, and so this character called Tom Southcross comments on a lot of biblical moments, and he's very interesting as a character. He has all of Geoffrey's kind of strange mixtures of irony and wistfulness, romantic and yet also hard-nosed, and all of which come out in Geoffrey's poems. So this poem is called Tom Southcross Considers Eden and After. Now let's just, oh damn, it's not coming up properly. Hang on a second, let me get it up properly so that it scrolls. Oh, that's better. Right, Tom Southcross Considers Eden and After. In the terrestrial paradise, Eve plucked a hanging fruit upon a tree that waved its green from an assertive root. In sampling it, she found a world that made her taste buds zing